So today let's talk about some coolers. Today I have the Silverstone PF240 ARGB, which is obviously a 240mm AIO with all-important RGB. A lot of it. And it's upside down. There you go. Now both the fans and the pump are covered with RGB, and they can be controlled with an included addressable RGB controller with basically 10 lighting modes already pre-installed, and you can also control the brightness and the speed of changing in between colors. So all that can be controlled with the controller in the box. However, if you're like me and you can't be bothered to use the controller that comes with it, this AIO is pretty much compatible with every single RGB software on the planet. Like, there's a lot of them that it's compatible with. Just check the list. And then since we're on compatibility, let's talk socket compatibility. And basically same boat. Pretty much every socket this is compatible with. It's a lot. The pump's 3-phase 6-pole motor pushes fluid through little tiny 0.2mm microchannels cut into the cooling block. These little tiny channels basically help in heat dissipation, and then the fluid travels back through a multi-chamber pump, which basically keeps the fluid from trying to bleed over heat from the cold side to the hot side. Then it travels out to the radiator. The radiator used in this AIO is automotive grade, which has excellent anti-corrosion properties, which is great to have in an AIO that you're going to be using for quite a while. The radiator is cooled by 2 included PWM fans, which have a unique ribbed edge on the fan blades. And Silverstone claims that this helps suppress air turbulence and noise, and that this geometry is optimized for both airflow and pressure. But most importantly about these fans, they're RGB. The fans have an operational range of 600 to 2200 RPMs and a reported noise output level of 7.4 to 35.6 dBA. The size of said water block is 61mm long by 61mm wide, and it's about 25mm tall. And then the hose length, so basically from the radiator to the water block, is 400mm long, which is pretty important when you're considering which size case you're going to put it in and how you're going to mount your cooler. So remember, 400mm long. Price-wise, this whole setup comes in at $99.99 for this 240mm AIO. And the 120mm version is for $79.99, which I also have. I have plans for both of these in the future, so stick around. But for now, we're just looking at this one. So for $99.99 and this much RGB, it's a pretty good price as long as the performance is there, which we're going to find out now, which means I have to remove my amazing setup on the top of my case there. So if you don't know what this is all about, check that video out. But let's get this hooked up, that taken off, and we'll see how good it does. Be right back. So after testing, what do we know? Well, short answer is it's good. Now I know in the previous video that I made about the Oris 360 AIO, I said I was going to be done using my humble 2500K. However, because AMD doesn't want to make me a 3950X, I'm a bit stuck for now. So I'm kind of waiting on AMD to produce more of the 3950X, because it's kind of just what I decided I really want to use in my system upgrade. But for now, we're going to continue with the 2500K. Hopefully not for much longer. But when all is said and done, that actually helps us out, because that means I have some other coolers to compare this one to. Now, if you didn't see that video, what I did was I ran basically 3 coolers on the same setup, a 2500K, running at 4.9 gigahertz on within my S340 Elite, and they finished just how you would expect. The larger the AIO, the better the temps. No shocker. So it was really no surprise that when I ran the Silverstone PF240, it fell right where you'd expect, considering it's the smallest AIO tested. After 1 hour of I-64, the temperatures settled in at 68.7, which might raise some eyebrows if you're staring at those Noctua D15 scores, which is an air cooler at the same price point and appearing to have better temps. But, there's always a but, this isn't necessarily the fault of the cooler. It's more of a fault of my setup. Now, if you've owned or you know anything about the S340 Elite, you know that front airflow really isn't something it's known for. So knowing this, to simulate basically this cooler being mounted in a case that has much better front airflow, I took the front cover off. And then I ran the test again, 1 more hour of I-64, and in doing so, you can see that the numbers pretty much are identical, or at least within the margin of error. So if I was looking to buy one of these coolers, or let's just start with the AIOs. If I was going to buy one of these 3 AIOs, which one would I have chose, or which one would I pick for my next build? And for me, honestly, I would pick the PF240, and this is why. Unless I absolutely needed the performance of the Oris 360, it's just too expensive. I mean, it's plain simple. Now, don't get me wrong. It looks awesome. It's got RGB, which is a big deal for me. It's got that cool little TV, but you gotta pay for that. And although I actually really do like the Kraken, I mean, that's a cooler I bought for this PC when I originally built it. So you know, I do like it. I'd still choose that one, the PF240. Reason one being, the PF240, it comes with RGB fans. The Kraken doesn't. Simple as that. I like RGB. Now that might not be a big deal to everybody. It probably isn't, but for me it is. But the second reason is noise. The PF240 is surprisingly quiet at full speed. Where the Kraken sounds like a jet taking off when it ramps up to full speed. And also the Kraken, it costs more. It's not that much more, but it is more. It is louder, and there's no RGB. I mean, the pump has RGB, but you don't get RGB fans. So then you have the D15 and the PF240. And if it was me choosing, which one would I pick? Well, I mean, now you think about it, they're basically the same price. The Noctool finally has a black version, which is awesome. It doesn't look half bad. The performance is pretty much the same. It comes down to you want air cooler or water cooler. And for me, I still pick the 240. First off, RGB. I'm that guy. I'm that RGB guy. I have to have RGB on it. If I have two choices, one choice is RGB and the other choice doesn't, I'm going to probably go with the RGB. But other than that, I personally just like how an AIO looks in a custom build over an air cooler, but you might not feel the same. So if you're looking at this video considering, should I get the Silverstone PF240? Is it going to work for me? Am I going to like it? Is it good? Well, my opinion, yes. The performance is there. It looks good while doing it. All at a price that won't make you shit yourself when you go to click buy it now. So I hope you found this video helpful. Thank you guys for watching. Stick around though, because I have the 120 version of that, and I plan on doing something a little outside the box with both those coolers. So until next time.